She thought it was just another business trip, check in, drop her bags, and rest before tomorrow. But when she opened the door, everything felt wrong. The room wasn't empty. A mistake, they said, double booked. Yet what followed wasn't just awkward. It was a night that revealed how skin color still decides who feels safe and who carries the burden of protection. Why was the black guest forced to give up comfort? And what did this silent sacrifice expose about us all? This isn't just her story. It's a truth we can't look away from. It had been a long day, but nothing unusual. Sarah was traveling for work, like she had many times before. Airports, taxis, hotel check-ins, routine motions that had almost become second nature. She wasn't expecting anything except a quiet night of rest before her morning meeting. Her suitcase rolled behind her as she walked through the carpeted hallway of the hotel, the muffled hum of televisions and distant conversations filling the air. Sarah wasn't the type to think twice about safety inside a well-lit hotel. After all, this was supposed to be a place of comfort, a place where strangers from different walks of life could rest side by side without fear. She thought nothing more as she slid the keycard through the lock and pushed the door open. But what she found wasn't the usual sight of neatly tucked sheets and an untouched room. Instead, the space already held someone else's presence. A pair of shoes by the bed. A jacket was draped over the chair. For a moment, she froze, her heart skipping as confusion washed over her. It was a mistake, surely. Hotels make them all the time, don't they? A double booking, an error at the front desk. She considered backing out immediately, asking for a new key. But then she noticed who was inside. A man, calm yet visibly caught off guard, was standing by the window. He was black. Neither of them expected to share this space. Yet in that moment, a silent tension filled the room, one that had little to do with the hotel's mistake and everything to do with the world outside its walls. Sarah stood frozen in the doorway, her suitcase still clutched in one hand. The man turned slowly, his expression mirroring her shock. For a moment, silence stretched between them, two strangers caught in an unexpected collision of worlds. Then he spoke softly, his voice steady but edged with discomfort. The front desk must have made a mistake. Relieved yet uneasy, Sarah nodded, ready to retreat and sort things out. But when she returned to the lobby, the receptionist barely looked up. With a sigh, she explained that there were no other rooms available. "It's just one night," the clerk said. "You'll both have to manage." Sarah hesitated. Share a room with a man she didn't know? She felt her chest tighten. Yet before she could argue, the receptionist's tone hardened. "We don't have options. If you don't like it, you can leave." The words stung. Back upstairs, the awkwardness thickened. Sarah tried to reassure herself. This man wasn't the threat. He seemed polite, keeping his distance, offering her the bed while he took the chair. But even in his calm gestures, Sarah could sense a quiet weight he carried. A weight that didn't belong to her. Later that night, a knock rattled the door. Sarah jolted awake. A group of drunken guests filled the hallway, laughing too loudly, their words slurred. At first, it seemed harmless, until the laughter twisted into whispers and sharp comments aimed inside. They had noticed. A white woman, a black man, alone, together, in one room. The remarks grew louder. Jokes turned into slurs. Then came the pounding fists against the door. Sarah's pulse raced as fear crawled up her throat. She glanced at the man, expecting anger, but instead found him standing still, jaw clenched, eyes weary. This wasn't new to him. This was survival. "Don't open it," he whispered firmly. His tone carried years of experience, of being targeted, judged, threatened for nothing more than existing. Sarah realized then that the real danger wasn't inside the room. It was outside, in a world that had already decided what this moment looked like. Minutes stretched. The pounding eventually faded, footsteps stumbling down the hallway. But the silence left behind was heavier than the noise. Sarah's chest heaved with adrenaline. But beside her, the man only sighed, as if he had lived this scene too many times before. In that moment, she saw the truth. The room wasn't the only thing double-booked. He had been forced to carry not just his own fear, but hers too. And while Sarah could leave tomorrow and forget, he would never get to step out of the weight placed on him nightly. What happened in that hotel wasn't just an inconvenience. It was a mirror, showing her a reality she had never been forced to see. But the night wasn't over yet. The night dragged on, but Sarah couldn't sleep. Every creak of the hallway made her tense. Every shadow across the curtains pulled her heart into her throat. But what unsettled her most wasn't the noise outside. It was the calm way the man sat awake, keeping watch. He hadn't closed his eyes once. At first, she thought it was courtesy, a way to make her feel safe. But as the hours passed, she realized the truth. He wasn't protecting her from him. He was protecting her from the world outside that room. Then, near dawn, it happened. Another knock. This one wasn't playful or drunken. It was sharp, commanding. The voice outside was low, demanding to know what was happening inside. The man stiffened, his jaw set. Sarah felt a surge of panic. Why did they need to explain? Why did his presence suddenly require justification? She opened her mouth to answer, but he stopped her with a glance. His eyes held a painful knowledge she didn't yet understand. Anything he said, anything he did, could be twisted against him. The knocking grew louder. A threat hung in the air. Sarah's pulse hammered in her ears as she imagined what could happen if the door opened. How quickly suspicion could turn into violence. How a simple hotel mistake could end in tragedy. And in that moment, the unbearable truth hit her. She had the privilege of fear that ended when she checked out. But for him, this was his life, night after night. The silence between knocks was suffocating. Sarah's breath trembled as she realized the unspoken reality. If someone stormed in, she would be seen as the guest. He would be seen as the danger. And when the door shook one final time, her heart sank with the chilling thought. Would this be the night he became just another story the world would argue about, long after it was too late? By morning, the hallway was quiet again. The voices, the pounding, the suspicion, gone as if it had never happened. Sarah gathered her things, her body heavy with exhaustion, but her mind heavier with something she couldn't shake. The man by the window rose slowly, as though carrying a weight she could never measure. He offered her a small, tired nod before stepping aside to let her pass. No words were needed. She knew what he had given her that night, a safety she had taken for granted all her life, but one he had to fight for every day. She walked out of that room, but he couldn't walk out of the reality that followed him everywhere. The hotel would move on. The staff would forget. The other guests would laugh about it later. But Sarah couldn't. She had witnessed how, in one night, the world demanded he shoulder both his fear and hers. Not because of who he was as a person, but because of the color of his skin. And that's the truth too many ignore. These moments don't always make headlines. They don't always end in tragedy. But they carve deep scars, quiet reminders of how unequal safety really is. For Sarah, it was one night that changed how she saw the world. For him, it was just another night in a lifetime of being seen as a threat before being seen as a human. So the question is, how many more nights like this will pass, unseen and unspoken, before we finally confront the truth? How many more silent sacrifices will it take for us to understand that safety should not be a privilege, it should be a right? Because his story isn't just his, it's ours. And what we choose to do next will decide how it ends.